So my name is Engineer Professor Abdulrahman Ahmed, and I'm currently the Dean of the Faculty of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I joined KNUST in 2005 as a lecturer, and then in 2019 I left for South Korea for my PhD. And I have spent a year in the language school in South Korea, and then 4 years for my PhD proper. So I returned in 2015. I had actually returned in 2014 and then went back to complete my Viva, and then that was in 2015, and then I came back. Well, I naturally had to come back to KNUST because of the area of studies that I did. My first degree was in KNUST in electrical and electronic engineering. And then when I went to do my master's degree program in the UK, was in radio systems engineering. And then my PhD was in radio science and engineering as well. And so that's an area of telecommunication engineering. And KNUST, obviously the premier technology university in Ghana, becomes the natural destination for me because of my background. I mean, basically because of the constraint of resources, when we return like this, some of the projects that we tend to work on for a couple of years are projects that we were working on back in the countries where we did our PhD. And my research project for my PhD was devising a technique and a technology for determining what we call the noise parameters of devices, active devices and passive devices. The existing method and technique and the technology was not only cumbersome, but it was also very expensive, and it wasn't affordable to most of the labs. So that was what I did for a PhD. And when I came here, I continued to work in that area, trying to improve the technique, because I already had some data back there before I came back here. After that project, I took on a project of determining the extent of rain attenuation in Ghana. You know, what you popularly experience is when it is raining very heavily, signals, especially television, they go off, and some mobile communication systems also have challenges and problems. So I took on this challenge. I'd had a few donation of equipment from TU Delft in Netherlands to start measurements. But unfortunately, along the line, this equipment had problems, and we had to truncate the project. Now I've had delivery of new equipment, and we are going to restart that project again. Then in addition to that, we've been doing some projects in designing antennas together with my younger colleague who was here as a student as well, my former students, and I'm back here at the faculty. In terms of gender balance and affirmative action to promote gender balance, the university has a policy. And that policy is to reduce the margin of competition for female applicants, especially to STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So they would be pegged at a degree one step lower in terms of the requirement for entry. And therefore, they're able to compete favorably with the men. And therefore, we are having increased enrollments for female students. So currently, I think we are averaging about 25 to 30% in engineering. There was a time when it was hovering around 1% to 2%. So we are seeing gradual improvements, in fact, rapid improvement in terms of the numbers of female students being admitted into programs, especially in the STEM programs. Yes. Well, that's a very important thing for us. Yes. Internationalization is a very important matter for us, and we are constantly looking for opportunities to partner, especially universities from well-established academic systems in Europe and in the Americas. Currently in my faculty, we have 2 active exchange program where we have some students going to Austria And we also have some students going to Germany. It's University of Applied Science, Offenburg. And our PhD students, 3 of them just returned last month from University of Applied Science, Offenburg. And we're exploring more opportunities with partners to even increase mobility for staff. Actually, one of the reasons this is not very active is COVID, because we had made some arrangement, for example, with the Indian Institute of Technology at Madras to have such mobility for both staff and students. But soon after the arrangements, while we were trying to sign the MOU, COVID set in. And COVID had affected a lot of our mobility. We had also had an interest on Erasmus Mundus collaboration. And again, once we started this process, there was a COVID. But now that we are having easing of a restriction, a few things are going to be picking up, and we are working very fervently to revive some of those organizations. As we speak currently, the Vice Chancellor of our university is preparing a trip to Germany, where they'll be meeting universities in Munich and in Frankfurt, and it's all to strengthen collaboration and partnership with foreign universities to increase mobilities and exposure for our students and faculty, even as we try to develop our capacity in the university right down here. This is the issue of practicals and ensuring a balance between practicals and theory. To be honest with you, poses a great challenge for us, especially in engineering. We're trying to do our best, but one of the major problems we are having is because this is the premier technology university in Ghana and in West Africa. We actually have some West African citizens come here as students. We have huge numbers that we are not able to cater for. We have some laboratory settings for undergraduate teaching especially, but because they are limited in number, sometimes it's difficult to cater for all the students at a go. And because our field, I'm talking about my faculty now, Faculty of Electrical and Computer Engineering, is a very fast changing field. We're trying to adapt as much as possible. We are having alternative solutions using softwares and simulations, so we don't necessarily have to have physical equipment for some of those lab experiments. And we are intensifying our expansion into research labs, where we have labs that are for postgraduate research, that will also be used by our faculties, and some undergraduate students can also use some of those labs for research. So for example, we just established a research lab in distributed IoT, that's Internet of Things, and blockchain technology. Equipment have arrived from Germany, and the lab is being prepared. It will be very ready, I think, within a month or two. And we also recently, and that is from a grant that we won from our partnership with the University of Applied Science, Offenburg. Like I said, we try to partner with these institutions. We apply for grants, and we use those grants to set up labs, fund postgraduate students, and do research. Another recent grant that we won as a faculty is a grant for the development of what we call the Responsible Artificial Intelligence Lab. So in these areas, we don't need huge and heavy equipment for research. Just a few computer nodes and servers, and you're able to do some serious research there. So with that grant also, we're trying to establish that lab, and we are currently having so many engagements. Actually, the main challenge that we experience when we transition from where we do our PhD in the diaspora and then return to our country and into our universities is the lack of resources for research in particular. And the difficulty, especially if you are in the area of engineering and technology, the difficulty in attracting funds through grants. Because our field, I'm particularly in telecommunication engineering, and this field is commercial in nature. Like, people make money, from it. So to think that someone will just give you money to do research and, to enjoy the process of that research, is something that they will do in their country in order to develop technology in their country and things like that. So it's usually very difficult to attract grants in these areas. And because of that, it impacts our ability to fund postgraduate students and to do research and to make impact. And so these are some of the challenges of resources. But I mean, once we persists and we are determined, we're able to find our ways around it, and that's why we are surviving in this environment. And then also one of the main challenges also is the huge number of students that we are having to take care of, and without accompanying expansion of facilities. And so some lecturers may find it a bit frustrating that there are so many students to take care of and they don't have the resources to be able to do their work effectively. For someone interested in returning to Africa and returning to their countries, like returning to Ghana, for example, and to be integrated in the world of academia, I would say give it a shot, because for two reasons. Number one, wherever you are is a developed country, and those countries can do very well without you, really. I mean, they have hundreds and thousands and millions of experts like you, and they will not suffer any loss from you leaving that country. Whereas here, in terms of our human resource in the area of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, at the highest level, we are actually impoverished, so to speak. And therefore, your contribution here will be much more appreciated than it would be in another country. That's the first reason. And secondly, also, is the fact that there's no place like home. I had never felt really comfortable staying in another country. I've always gone there for my studies, and once my studies is done, I'm on my way back home, because there's no place like home. Sometimes you live in a place and everything around you reminds you that you don't belong here. Meanwhile, this is where you belong and you're not here. I'm saying that no matter what challenges we have here, your coming here can only improve the system. I mean, since you're not coming to make it worse, give it a shot. You come here, you help improve the system, and over time, subsequent generations will find it a lot easier to transition back to their country, and then together we can help develop our countries.